Hey everyone, Jan here, codingwithjan.com. Today we're going to have a look at Shopify Functions, the second most requested topic from Shopify's winter editions, right after Meta Objects. And we're going to start with a super quick reminder of what functions are, then also how they are different from Shopify scripts. That's going to be really important. And then we can take a look at what's new in 2023, as well as how to get started writing functions, also using JavaScript. So should be quite interesting, and let's go. All right, so then let's get started with a super quick reminder. Functions were introduced as a new way to write our own backend logic. As you guys know, traditionally developers can work on the front end with themes, Liquid, Hydrogen. The database is accessible via the API, and you can also extend data schemas with meta fields or the new meta objects. If you haven't seen that video, you will find it in the description. And yeah, the backend is pretty much locked up. So we can't just tweak Shopify's backend logic or code custom features there. And that's why people build apps in order to implement more extensive custom features. Now, apps are awesome. They already provide a lot of flexibility, but they also come with a few drawbacks. You need to figure out your own hosting and server and make sure everything is fast enough. And traditional apps also couldn't implement logic throughout the checkout process, which is something many merchants would like. But so far, this has been proprietary to Shopify Plus merchants. We'll talk more about that in a second. But for now, to roughly understand the concept, let's say Shopify Functions allow you to directly customize or extend certain parts of Shopify's backend logic. And let me also give you a few easy to understand use cases here. So for example, you could build a function that automatically applies a discount during checkout if, let's say, an item was added 5 times as in volume discount, or if certain products are bought together in a bundle. Or you could rearrange the payment methods depending on the country that was selected. Or you could also hide and show different shipping methods depending on items in the cart or the shipping address. Yeah, just anything that requires you to build on top or to modify the default logic that Shopify has implemented. Okay, so now that we have a rough understanding of what Shopify Functions can do, let's also talk about how they are different from Shopify scripts. And to catch everyone up here, on Shopify Plus, traditionally, there are 2 main ways to customize the checkout. So first we have the checkout.liquid file, where we can just add HTML, CSS, JavaScript to build our own custom content elements, or maybe some trust elements that would be displayed throughout the checkout. That might be replaced with checkout UI extensions at one point. Also have a video on that. And as a second main way, we also have Shopify scripts, which is basically like a small script editor where you can paste Ruby scripts and thereby implement custom logic throughout the checkout. And with Shopify scripts, you can do very similar things to what we just talked about. So you can apply discounts, you can rearrange the payment methods. And that's why people have wondered, isn't that the exact same thing as functions? So here are the key differences. Scripts were only available on Shopify Plus, and functions will be available on all plans. And Plus merchants will also have the exclusive ability to write their own custom apps with functions. Then, whenever you wanted to distribute your Shopify scripts, you literally had to copy and paste them from one store to another. And functions will be deployed via apps. Also means you can share them on the App Store. Performance is the next one. So functions execute like 100 times faster than scripts, which is important if you have traffic spikes or flash sales. Then we have language support. So scripts could only be written in Ruby, and functions can be written in any language that compiles to WebAssembly, as long as your compiled modules don't exceed the file size limit of 256 kilobytes. And here we have another important one. So with Shopify scripts, whenever you wanted to make a change, you literally had to go in and tweak the code and also hope no one touches your code and accidentally breaks something. Whereas functions seamlessly integrate into the admin dashboard. So if we're talking discounts, you will be able to manage and configure them right at the discounts without ever touching code. And then one very important last note, at one point Shopify scripts will be deprecated and then no longer be supported. By the time I'm recording this, the scheduled date is August 13th of 2024. And that could also be a cool opportunity for you to get in touch with Shopify Plus clients if you can offer these kind of migrations as a service. Or if you've already been doing validations and bundles, and now you just want to white label them and sell them on the App Store. Okay, then let's also quickly go over what has changed since the last update. When functions were announced, Shopify said they will open up different areas over time. It all started with the product discount and order discount API, where we can now already find the first apps on the official App Store, which is awesome. And now we have access to 4 new areas in developer preview. And namely, these are the order routing location rule API. For example, you could use that to build custom logic to decide from which location an item should be fulfilled. Then we have the cart and checkout validation API. You could use that to build age verification features, or you can also limit the product quantity per customer. Maybe you have a flash sale or new sneaker dropping and you want to prevent people from buying all the stock at once and then reselling. Then we also have the cart transform API. This is perfect for building bundles because for one, you can display the new bundle price within checkout, but then also take care of the individual products on the back end, as in calculating taxes, shipping weights, decrementing inventory, just to ensure that everything can be fulfilled properly after purchase. And lastly, we have the payment customizations API and delivery customizations API, which for example, you could use to hide or reorder payment and shipping methods depending on certain conditions. Beyond that, Shopify has also added cool new features to the developer experience. So for example, we can now use input variables in our GraphQL queries, and they also added support for app-owned meta fields. But the best news of all, functions can now also be written in JavaScript. And in my humble opinion, that's a huge step forward because most of us already know a bit of JavaScript. And if you're developing apps with Node.js, then you don't necessarily have to learn a new language like Rust. However, it's also worth mentioning that the Rust experience has improved since my last update. The templates contain way less boilerplate and so forth. You can read up on that in the docs. But yeah, in order to compile JavaScript to WebAssembly, Shopify released a new toolchain / runtime. It's called Javi, and that is fully integrated into the CLI, so you don't even have to worry about how it works behind the scenes. But if you still want to discover more about the technical details of the toolchain, then Surma from the engineering team wrote a super detailed blog article that you will also find in the description. All right, now off to the burning question, how do you get started? And on the Shopify docs, you already find tons of cool use cases and examples. I highly recommend checking them out. And last time I walked you through one of these using Rust. So if that's interesting to you, you can check out the first video, link in the description. But today I'm going to walk you through one of these using JavaScript, like of course using JavaScript. And we're going to be building a function to validate the cart. More specifically, we want to check if the current user is a known customer. And if not, they shouldn't be able to make purchases over 1,000 USD. Because maybe we don't trust them yet. You can also find this tutorial in text form in the description. But for now, I'll do screen share, add some commentary on top, in hopes you find that helpful, and let's go. Okay, so we're starting off in my partner dashboard, and as a first step, I want to create a new development store. Now, this is nothing fancy, just create a store to test and build, enter a name. We can just say functions with JavaScript. And that's very important. Make sure to select the developer preview for checkout extensibility. And for convenience, we can also start with some test data. Then we already have some products in the store when we create it. Create the store, wait for it to finish. All right, there we go. And now we can leave this store untouched for a second. And I want to switch to my local development environment on my PC. And as you can see, I have this folder on my desktop called development. That's where I'm starting my new project. Then as a first command, I instantiate a new Shopify app using the CLI. Here we also have to enter a name. So I just call it my app. It's going to be of type Node.js, or that's going to be the tech stack. Now we just have to wait for that to finish. All right, and now that this has completed, we can already find all the default app files in our local directory. And now I want to navigate into that new app folder and then also run the app one time. This will help with the initial setup, just connecting it to the development store. So now I'm prompted to authenticate. This is going to be pretty self-explanatory. We just have to select the right partner account, select that it's going to be a new app, give it a name. I'm going to use the same name, and then select the development store I want to install this app to. Okay, and then inside our store, we are prompted to install the new app. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we should be presented with this welcome screen. And so far, this was nothing too crazy. We just created a regular app using the default app template that the CLI provides. The only exception is that our development store is under the checkout extensibility developer preview. Okay, now before we move on, we gotta do one step in between, and that is install the pre-release CLI version to our project. And that is because at the time I'm recording this, all the features are so new that the JavaScript templates are not yet included in the public version. So we can just copy this command into our terminal and then wait for the CLI to install. And now we want to install an extension to our app. So we can use the following command, Shopify app generate extension. Now we have to select what type of extension we want to build. So I'm going to discounts and checkout and then function, cart and checkout validation. Here we got to set a name for our extension. So we can just call it checkout validation, just a descriptive name for now. And here we can select the starter template. And now we can select the JavaScript developer preview templates. Wait for all the files to be added to our project. And now we can see that we have this new extensions folder inside our app project. And we can also see the full name, checkout validation, that's what we just entered. And then as a first step, I want to bring up the input.graphql file. That's going to be the input for our function. And we can actually replace everything that's in here with the GraphQL query we find in the tutorial. So let me just copy paste this. And now you can see that we request certain cart values. For one, the buyer identity with the number of orders. And then we also want to get the total amount or the costs of the current cart to later check if it's less 1000 USD or above. And then next, I want to bring up the terminal again and actually navigate into the extension folder. And then we want to run the following command to generate these GraphQL types. Okay, seems this was successful. And now we can move on with the actual logic that will make the function work, like implementing the actual function. So in order to do that, we have to navigate to the source folder, find the index.js file. Now let me zoom out a bit so you can read this better. All right, looks better. And now we can get rid of the default code in here and then paste the function that we find in the tutorial. And we can also quickly go over that. So first we have one variable called input, which is holding all the GraphQL input values. Here we pass the total cart amount. Down below we can then check if it's greater than 1000 USD. And if it's greater than 1000, then we can check the buyer's or customer's identity. If that's not present, he's probably not logged in, then we can throw an error right away. And otherwise we check the amount of orders. And then if it's less than 5 orders, we also throw an error. And in case you wonder, the error message has been defined on top. Okay, with all of that in place, we can now go ahead and deploy our function. Therefore, we have to navigate back to the app root directory. And now we can just run npm run deploy. Here we can just click yes. Yes, also push our changes. So now it's deploying our function, also running Javi. You see that right there. And then it's pushing the code to Shopify already. So the compiled module has been pushed to Shopify now. And that's interesting. You can also find that in the .env file. So let's navigate there really quick. Right there, we see the unique ID, and we can use this ID to install the function into the store we want. And in order to do that, we just need to execute a GraphQL query. I'll show you that right now. So following step 2 of the tutorial, activating the cart and checkout validation. First, let's install this GraphQL app right here so that we can make a quick query from the store. Here we have to enter the My Shopify URL. We can just grab it from the store. And for sake of simplicity, I just selected all scopes. I don't want to run into any scope issues right now. Select the development store, yes. Functions with JavaScript. Install the GraphQL app. And here we got to select the API version really quick, set it to unstable. And then we can go ahead and grab our function ID. I'll just copy and paste it here for 1 second. And then we're going to copy this GraphQL query in order to install this function into the demo store. So let me paste this here and then replace the function ID. All right. Now we should be able to execute this. And here we get the response. So this means everything was successful. And if we now go to the store settings and then checkout, we should see that with the GraphQL query that we just ran, we installed a new checkout validation. And currently it's disabled, so let's enable that. And now we can go ahead and preview our store. Here we have the demo products. Let's just add 2 of these so that we get to 1200 in total value. Okay, let's go to the cart. So this is above or clearly above 1000. And then we see this error message that the total order amount has been exceeded. How cool is that? Alright guys, and with that we can bring this video to a close. I really hope this was a helpful starting point. We've seen what functions are, how they're different from Shopify scripts, you're up to the latest news, and you know how to get started writing functions in JavaScript. So yeah, what more could one ask for? And let me know some feedback in the comments, check out the resources in the description, and then have an amazing rest of your day. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.